mga bata, maayong adlaw kaninyo. Kumusta na mo?
Ang damay niyong mga gamit, kay magsugod na ang eskwelahan sa kahanginan. Kini ang Learn O'Clock.
Magtuon kita karon dinhi sa bagong panahon.
Ang mga lapis o papel, radyo, TV o computer,
Smartphone o modules kinahanglanon.
ayaw kalimot sa pag-invite sa imong higala.
Ang pagtuon dili maundang mo padayon pa.
Makaton pag-ihap, makaton ta pagbasa.
Letters of the alphabet ang atong alpabeto. Sa Learn O'Clock, where learning won't stop. And then andamo ng kaugalingon kay magsugod ng Learn O'Clock.
Hello, DepEd CDO. Good day, grade 4 learners. Welcome to Learn O'Clock. How are you today? I am sure you're all staying home safely. I am Teacher Pinky
And I am Teacher Lorraine.
from Ipunan Elementary School. We are here to help you learn from your home through broadcast lessons. Be sure to stay around during the duration of our program. Before we begin, let us give you some reminders for you to follow. Number 1. Read and follow the directions or instructions in the activities or exercises carefully and diligently. Number 2. Take your time in listening. Make it sure that you also understand all the things that you have listened to. Number 3. Answer the given activities and tests as honestly as you can. Number 4. Make sure to have a piece of pen and paper with you. Thank you very much, children, for following through. I guess you are now ready to learn our lesson. But before that, please stay tuned. We will be right back after a short reminder.
Good day once again, grade 4 learners. Today, we will be talking about the types of beneficial and harmful interactions among living things in an ecosystem. Remember, after this lesson on air, you are expected to: number 1, describe the beneficial interactions among living things. And number 2, describe the harmful interactions among living things. So children, are you all excited to learn with us today? Wow, you seem so excited. So sit back, relax, and listen. Let us see what you will be learning today. At this moment, we will begin talking about how living things interact with each other in an ecosystem. Kids, do you know that living things in an ecosystem are connected to one another? That's interesting. In what ways do these living things interact with one another? Do they benefit from these interactions? Perhaps they are harmed too? Or maybe they are not affected at all. These aforementioned questions will somehow guide you as you explore more about the interactions among living things in an ecosystem. Are you ready, children, to perform an activity that will help develop your science skills like describing and analyzing? Great! You sound so eager and ready. So now, you need to have your pen and paper ready because we are going to perform the activity given on page 2 of your module. Please open your module and take a look now on what's new. Here are the directions. Below are drawings of relationships among living things that takes place in an ecosystem. Your task is to identify if in their relationship, the organism is benefited, not affected, or harmed. Write your answers in your paper. Got it, kids? Okay, good. Let us now try to answer the activity. Let us begin with letter A. We have the flower and the bee. Now kids, in the relationship between the flower and the bee, how does the flower get affected? Was it benefited, not affected, or harmed? Write your answer now for number 1. Well, how about the bee? Was it benefited, not affected, or harmed with its relationship with the flower? Write down your answer now for number 2. Are you done, kids? Very good. This time, let us proceed to letter B. We have now the relationship between the tree and the orchid plant. Was the tree benefited, not affected, or harmed with its relationship with the orchid plant? What do you think, kids? Okay, write down your answer now for number 3. Done? Very nice, kids. You're following through. Number 4, the orchid plant. Was it benefited, not affected, or harmed with its relationship with the tree? Write your answer now, kids. You are all doing so great with our activity. So I think you are all ready to answer letter C. We have now the relationship of the bird and the worm. In number 5, write your answer as to how the bird got affected with its relationship with the worm. Was the bird benefited, not affected, or harmed? How about the worm? As the bird eats the worm, was it benefited, not affected, or harmed? Write your answer for number 6. Let us now proceed to letter D. We have there the relationship between the rose plant and the aphids. Well, kids, in what way does the rose plant get affected by its relationship with the aphids? Was the rose plant benefited, not affected, or harmed? Answer number 7 now. Next are the aphids. Were they benefited, not affected, or harmed? Write your answer for number 8. This time, we will identify the kind of relationship among the tigers trying to compete to eat the buffalo. On number 9, write if the tigers were benefited, not affected, or harmed with their relationship with each other. Were you able to answer all the items, kids? Good job!
Wow, kids! You're doing great in performing our activities. Are you now ready to check your answers? Nice! At this time, we will begin checking if you correctly identified how the living things in an ecosystem affect each other. Let's start with the flower. With its relationship with the bee, was it benefited, not affected, or harmed? Well, kids, do you know that the bees transfer from one flower to the other flower? The flowers actually get pollinated, meaning there will be more plants in our surroundings because of pollination. Therefore, the flower is benefited with its relationship with the bee. Good job! Next is the bee. Will it also benefit from its relationship with the flower? You're absolutely right. The bee gets its food by sipping on the nectar of the flower. That is to say, the bee is also benefited with its relationship with the flower. Let's proceed now to the relationship between the tree and the orchid plant. What's your answer to number 3? Wow! You got it right, kids! The tree is not affected with the relationship with the orchid plant. It absolutely gets nothing from the orchid plant. On the other hand, the orchid plant is benefited with its relationship with the tree. In fact, the orchid plant clings on the branches or trunks of the tree so that they can get more sunlight for them to grow. They're amazing, right? And how about the relationship between the bird and the worm? Hooray! You're right again this time. As a matter of fact, the bird was benefited because it was able to eat its food, which is the worm. However, the worm was harmed because it was eaten by the bird. This relationship is an example of a harmful relationship between organisms. At this moment, we will be checking your answer on number 7. In the relationship between the rose plant and the aphids, how does the rose plant gets affected? You're absolutely correct. The rose plant was harmed. Why? It is because the aphids suck the juice of the soft part of the rose plant. Obviously, this will damage the rose plant. So, can you tell now how the aphids get affected by the relationships? Wow! Nice job, kids! The aphids are actually benefited because they get to feed on the plant juices of the rose plant. Similarly, this kind of relationship between organisms is also a harmful one. Lastly, the relationship among the tigers trying to compete to eat the buffalo. How do they affect each other? That's right! The tigers are either benefited or harmed. In what way? It appears that these tigers still need to compete or fight with one another so that the winner will get to eat the buffalo. The winner is benefited. Yet, the other tigers who are not able to eat the buffalo will suffer being hungry. That is to say, they were harmed. Competition is also a kind harmful relationship among organisms in an ecosystem. Wow! You're doing great, kids! Based on our activity, can you describe now the different beneficial and harmful interactions among organisms in an ecosystem? Great!
Based from our activity, what organisms have a beneficial interaction or relationship? These are the flower and the bee, and the tree and the orchid plant. That's right! And what organisms have a harmful interaction or relationship? These are the bird and the worm, the rose plant and the aphids, and the tigers. Nice job! Okay, kids, like what I have said earlier, living things in an ecosystem are connected to one another in order to live and grow. And the relationship between two kinds of living things may be 1. Beneficial to both organisms, 2. Beneficial to one while the other is not affected, and 3. Beneficial to one but harmful to the other. Amazing, right? So, what do we call the type of interaction where both organisms benefit from each other? That is called mutualism. An example of this relationship is the relationship between the flower and the bee from our activity. In addition, the type of interaction where one organism benefits while the other is not affected or not harmed is called commensalism. This interaction is evident in the relationship between the tree and the orchid plant. As you know, kids, mutualism and commensalism are the types of beneficial interactions between organisms in an ecosystem. How about the types of harmful interactions between organisms? Well, we have 3. The first one is predation. In this type of interaction, one organism is benefited while the other is badly affected or harmed because they were eaten or killed. The predator is the organism that benefits in the relationship, while the prey is the organism that is eaten or killed. In our activity, this interaction was evident in the relationship between the bird and the worm. The bird was the predator, while the worm is the prey. Moreover, we also have parasitism. This interaction was evident in the relationship between the rose plant and the aphids, wherein one organism is benefited while the other is harmed. The rose plant is the host, the organism that was harmed or badly affected. Meanwhile, the aphids are called the parasites, the organisms that benefited the relationship and can be found outside the body of the rose plant. Finally, we have competition, which happens when organisms compete or fight for food, water, or space. An example of this interaction is the competition among the tigers to get and eat the buffalo. Now that you have learned about the types of beneficial and harmful interactions among living things in an ecosystem, you are now ready to answer these questions. Number 1. What do we call the type of interaction where both organisms benefit from each other? It is called mutualism. Wonderful! Number 2. What do we call the type of interaction where one organism benefits while the other is not affected or not harmed? This interaction is called commensalism. Great, kids! Number 3. What do we call the type of interaction where one organism is benefited while the other is eaten or killed? This is predation. Number 4. What do we call the type of interaction where the parasite stays inside or outside the body of its host and harms it? It is called parasitism. Number 5. What do we call the type of interaction where organisms compete with one another for food, water, or space? This interaction is called competition. Perfect!
Now it is time to get another sheet of paper and a pen and be ready for a short quiz. You may open your module on page 7 to answer post-assessment part B. Number 1. Man feeding the dog. Answer: mutualism. Number 2. Snake eating the chick. Answer: predation. The snake is benefited, the chick is harmed. Number 3. Mosquito biting a man. Answer: parasitism. The man is harmed, the mosquito is benefited. Number 4. Grasses growing around a corn plant. Answer: competition. The corn plant is harmed, the grasses are benefited. And last but not the least, number 5. Cat and mouse in a house. Answer: predation. The mouse is harmed, the cat is benefited. Were you able to answer all the questions correctly? Congratulations for those who made it. Job well done, kids! See, you can now describe the types of beneficial and harmful interactions among living things. That was easy, right?
Once again, this is Teacher Lorraine.
And Teacher Pinky. Till next time, kids, have a great day! Department of Education, Division of Cagayan de Oro, would like to acknowledge the creative team of Ipunan Elementary School, West District for Science for Module 7. Presenters, Lorraine R. Tenchavez and Irfalin F. Amores. Script writer, editor, Lorraine R. Tenchavez. Technical Director, Arlie Polangos. Our respected District Supervisor, Dr. Marife A. Ramos. Supportive Principal, Dr. Pedrita R. Jordan. Assistant Principals, Dr. Emerita G. Labis and Isabelita M. Alugar. Once again, this is your Production Manager, Creative Director, Irfalin Fuentes Amores, leaving you with a quote, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world," by Nelson Mandela.